Hey Smarties, Blair Imani here. I'm an author, educator, historian, and today we're going to get smarter because we have a question from a Smartie named Sarah. Sarah asks, Blair, how do I raise my child to be a change maker, to fight against oppression? Well, Sarah, let's get smarter about it. Get Smarter with Blair Imani. Today's lesson is brought to you by my Smarties on Patreon. Thank you so much to my Smarties who invest in my work, who allow me to create content like this. You can go to patreon.com/Blair Imani and join me there. So, what are we getting smarter about? When we talk about raising children or educating young people, it's important to remember that it's not just parenting, and that parents aren't the only ones that do this. Some people aren't raised by parents. When it comes to raising and educating young people, it's key to keep in mind that we can't push people to be something without their consent. And oftentimes this does happen in different structures. Sometimes parents, guardians, caretakers, etc. will put expectations onto their young people that are unfair, that are unreasonable. And we have to remember that we're distinct individuals from those that we can help inform and mold and educate. But I'm not an expert. I mean, I don't have my own kids, but I have contributed to educating other people's kids. But why not have somebody who literally wrote the book on it? Dr. Janice Johnson-Dias, who I was able to interview. She just wrote a book called Parent Like It Matters: How to Raise Joyful Change-Making Girls. And I highly recommend it whether or not you're a parent and whether or not you are raising girls. Dr. Dias has a PhD in sociology from Temple University and specializes in urban and political sociology. She's also the mother of teen activist Marley Dias, whose book I have right here, and I featured her in my book Modern Herstory. And Dr. Dias is the mother behind that work, and her book is absolutely amazing. But you don't have to take my word for it. Let's head over to our interview and you can hear it straight from the expert herself. Smarties, I'm here with Dr. Janice Johnson-Dias, and I'm so excited. You have a new book out today. And so let's get into parenting. There's so much confusion around parenting, so many different styles, and I really want to have an informed conversation about it. My parents say that parenting is to equip your offspring, whether they are natural, adopted, informal, formal, to be prepared for the world. How do you define parenting?
I think for me, I share a lot of what your parents have taught you. I see parenting as a journey of discovery for the self before the child or the children. It is your opportunity to better understand yourself, especially since you share yourself with the children inside your home. And so for me, parenting is the process of coming to know and coming to share who you are, and helping the young people around you recognize that they are connected to others and therefore beholden to themselves and to others.
How do you guide a young person to be within the realms of respect as it is necessary?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's not as hard as people think it is. With Marley and with all children, what I suggest caregivers do is that they develop a framework where they value questions and they don't see questions as accusatory. And that means that they need to embrace science. And to me, if you have a strong embrace for science, then you see that questioning is a discovery process. And then it's not an affront to your personality or to your power position vis-a-vis a kid. You will see that there are stages towards information and to what you can do. You will understand that mistakes are really a valuable part of it. And you will, particularly if you have Black children, and especially if you have a Black girl, you will see that they're not adults and they should have the right and should be afforded the space to make a lot of mistakes and then to test again and then to try again and experiment again in order to move forward. And each state of experimentation gives us new knowledge and new information. And so this particular framework, I just really, especially for Black and brown parents, I'm just like, look, y'all, I get it. The society really does a number on our kids, and you feel like the mistakes that they make is going to be amplified, but you don't have to amplify them in your home.
So in moments where something unforeseen happens or something tragic happens, what is the role of the caregiver in that case?
This is quite a thing because right now, like, Marley's having a hard time, right? Like, the world is so deeply unjust. She's particularly attuned to issues of oppression, and she feels it deeply. And so a part of it is I've had to do several things in this process, and it's been multi-tiered. One, a therapist that has just really been important, an important resource for us and the entire family. Two, I've had to learn way more. And I know a bunch of stuff, right? Like I have a PhD. Be ready to say that what you don't understand and what you're still in process with before you talk to the children. Because what happens is that if you are mostly ill prepared, you could exacerbate their pain. And you could also do a thing that I think is even more awful is that you could misinform them. So I just want caregivers to recognize that the work is not simply on the kid. Like they jump very quickly to like, oh my God, there's a trauma. I need to talk to my kid because now everybody's like, I need to make sure the kids know. And I'm like, take a beat, take a beat and get yourself in a good position to have both language, knowledge, information, and a clear understanding of your limits before you create fairy tales and you actually exacerbate what is already a painful thing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And as I have it here on screen, I said, and this went kind of viral, if Black children are old enough to experience racism, then white children are old enough to learn about it. And so I want to know what this means to you and how parents can educate their children across privilege and understand that it's not denying a child their childhood, it's preparing them for the world around us.
So I think that there are a couple of things. A lot of Black kids are experiencing the consequences of racism and can't name it as racism. Mm. This, I think, is usually, that's usually like my first charge. So many of the pain, the housing problem, the police inequity, the insurance and health issues, Black kids cannot just name that as a racist infrastructure harming them. Oftentimes they think it's because some inadequacy in their parents or some inadequacies in them. So I really want Black and brown kids to really be able to name racism, see it at play. Like very early on, children need to understand what is happening. They need to understand how the construction of their lives is shaped by the racist structure that is the United States. And parents can do that in a lot of different ways. In my book, I talk about helping kids drive, like when kids are driving across neighborhoods. Why do you think some houses are so close and some houses are so far apart? Why do you think in the winter, this neighborhood has plowed streets and this one doesn't? Why do you see trash collections or the presence of police, right? So caregivers need to be able to walk their children through from the very moment that they are able to kind of understand anything, which I think is about 4 or 5. Why are these things happening? That by the time you get to George Floyd, children understand that social inequity defines the very parameter of the United States. It's not like, Mom, is that true? Dad, is that true? No, this entire society is marked by a whole bunch of stratas, race, class, gender, sexuality, etc. And here we are, you can see it. I want kids to grow up seeing these stratas all the time. So by the time we're ready to really deal into racism, they're not thinking, oh, my teacher is nice, he couldn't be racist, or she couldn't be racist. Racism and niceness have no relationship with each other. There are plenty of lovable racists, and there are plenty of systems that can tell you and show you every day how unjust they are and how marked they are by racism.
Absolutely. And I was just going to say, it reminds me of different junctures. You know, by 3 years old, children have determined stereotypes, they've absorbed them, and they've learned them from their caregivers and from the media that the caregivers watch, the offhand remarks that they make. And it's that 1980s or 1990s drug commercial where it was like, I learned it from you, Dad. Like, that's often what happens. I spoke about on my page how if you're not letting your child know what you do value, what you don't value, that child is going to learn it vicariously. Now, if it's the case that you make an offhand remark and your child hears it, what I encourage folks to do is to name it, say that's unacceptable, and say that, you know, mommy, daddy, parent is still working on themselves and you should not be repeating that. And my parents often did that with themselves. So your book, Parent Like It Matters. And I believe that you've absolutely done that. I believe my parents did that for me. And I believe that it's necessary, whether you call yourself a parent or a caregiver. And so when you were, you know, preparing to be a parent, You have a doctorate, you're a sociologist, you've done so much robust work. How much of that work was done prior to having Marley to where you are today?
The truth of how I came to think about parenting like it matters came when no one from my birth family was willing, particularly my mother, to come and support me when I had a baby. And it was the crisis of I delivered Marley 11 days after I became a doctor. And that experience was just me and Scotty. And we had to take everything that we had inside of us and decide in that moment that that child was born who we were going to be. And Scott, in his own pensive way, decided that he wanted to be the best dad ever. And I decided that every bit of pain that I had felt until that minute at 8:40 something when she was born, that pain wasn't going to define me. And that from that moment on, every good thing that I had to give, I was going to pour into that kid. And I must have probably said it out loud, and I have never turned back. And she is the exact manifestation of every bit of love that I have inside of my body, I have put into that child. Because those moments, that 10, 11-day period of Scott, the family not coming, all of it said, I needed to make something new. And she was going to be the something new. And every time I see her, I just think she is a personification of love in every way, every way. And I just wish that for every kid. Like, I just wish that. So that's what she is to me. And that's the reason why I do parent like it matters, because it took a level of intentionality to decide that I was going to make a new beginning. And I've been living that since that day.
That is just so beautiful. And thank you so much for your time. And thank you for helping us get smarter.
Thank you. I'm so excited. This is like absolutely wonderful.
Well, did you get smarter? I certainly hope that you did. I mean, I don't have children of my own. I brought in an expert who does and who's written a book all about it. I hope you go and pick up Parent Like It Matters, because it's important whether or not you're a parent in the traditional sense. It can help us empower the young people in our lives, and it's perfect for this current moment, not only in terms of social pandemics and crises, but in social justice. We cannot unlive the events of 2020. We have to do our best to move forward, to look to the future, and equip the young people in our lives for that future as well. Check out the book and let me know in the comments. Do you have any other questions for Dr. Dias? Do you want to check out the book? Do you have children of your own? Do you consider yourself to be a carer, a caretaker? Do you use the word guardian? Have you said mom and dad and kind of assumed that everybody has mom and dad? Don't do that. But if you have any other questions, just head over to blairimani.com/questions. And if I can't answer it, I'll bring in an expert who can. Well, Smarties, that's another episode of Get Smarter with Blair Imani. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so that you can be the first one to comment on my posts. And while you're here, check out one of my previous videos. Let's keep it going.